Okay, going to call to order a special meeting here this evening, February 17th, 2021. This is a work session for the Board of Trustees. This particular topic is with the fire station to discuss the fire station project. So this is a work session, just an open discussion about the various things going on so we can dialogue with the fire department about things that need to happen where the project is. This work session will not include public comment. This is just the township conducting business. If you wish to reach out to a trustee or have comment, you can, again, you can contact the trustee. You can contact the fire department or Rose Township administration if you have questions. And then, of course, we also do have audience participation as regularly scheduled in all of our trustee meetings, first and third Wednesdays of every month. So that is a time when you can dialogue with the board. This tonight is just about us conducting some business and getting through stuff in a orderly way. So with that, I'll invite the chief to come up and give us an update on where things are, and we'll get to work.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for this opportunity to continue this discussion on the fire station project as we, every day seems like there's something new or something that comes up across our plate that we really hone in on. So this is a good opportunity. Since our last discussion, I thought it was important that myself and the senior leadership of the fire department got together and really looked at the advantages of in terms of which station to start with when it comes down to the actual construction. When we looked at the advantages of beginning with Station 1, some of the things that popped out at us was I would not have to displace my fire prevention. They can stay put until the Station 1 is completed, and then I only have to move them once. Every time we move a department, it costs money, so that would be a cost savings to get them moved over to the new station, along with their materials, their plans, their files. But it would only have to happen once. Temporary storage capacity either in the new or old fire station 1 for fire prevention, the additional ambulance. As we talked earlier, we understand that no matter which station starts first or gets completed first, it still creates a temporary condition at Station 2 to continue to provide emergency services while Station 2 is being constructed. What that will do is displace one ambulance from Station 2 over to Station 1. If the new Station 1 is completed and we're moved in, I have the space to put that ambulance and keep it in service. Actually, we'll have space for all 3 of our ambulances on a temporary basis until Station 2 is complete. We also have the ability to absorb the 2 additional personnel that will be displaced from Station 2 during construction over at Station 1. We'll have a couple extra bunks to put them in the new station with their squad, and they'll be ready to respond to calls on Station 2 side. Starting with Station 1, there's a potential for construction and process experience on our behalf to really get a good understanding of the processes and hopefully expedite the construction of Station 2. Station 2 is definitely the most challenging, I think, of the 2 projects just because of its location relative to a neighborhood community. As opposed to what we're faced with Station 1 in the soccer field. There's not a whole lot of impact to the neighborhood at Station 1 like there is Station 2. So whatever we can do to expedite that process at Station 2, I think the better off we'll be. It also gives completing Station 1, in my opinion, gives the fiscal officer time to put money away for Station 2. As we had discussed, I believe, in one of the stakeholder meetings. It just gives us some time to get that money put away, but again, that's my opinion. What it will do is give me time to secure some funding for Station 2 temporary conditions. Some of those things we talked about before, the mobile home for 2 firefighters. I'll call it the engine house, or whatever structure we're gonna use to put the engine in at Station 2 temporarily, or on the Station 2 site temporarily during construction. Like I said, Station 2 is already the more challenging site, and these advantages above really make us start looking at the feasibility of starting with Station 1 first. There's far more advantages and cost savings. I looked at, what it would cost us to rent a storage facility, excuse me, for some of the records, equipment, weight equipment, all this stuff that we have. We do have some space in the red barn, but we all know that it's rodent infested and it would be a problem. It's in terms of what we put in red barn. The initial thought was that Station 2 would be bid ready well in advance of Station 1. That was the case until recently when the architect said that they were going to be really close to being bid ready together. They're not going to be together, but really, really close. Not months spread apart. There's no doubt Station 2 is in the worst condition, but I really think that considering Station 2 or Station 1 first, I think really sets us up for success in the long run, and especially with some cost savings as well. If we did Station 2 first, I have to figure out where to put an additional ambulance, an additional engine in our existing facilities, and it's just not there. So this answers a lot of questions and helps really fill a lot of gaps.
Is there any questions from the board? I know I had a little bit of pre-load on this with Chief and Andy earlier in the week, so I'll let you guys hop in if you got any thoughts or questions.
Can you just comment again on what exactly the temporary for Station 2 will be if we do 1 first?
So if no matter which station we do first, there will be a temporary condition created at Station 2 that will consist of a mobile home for the firefighters and some kind of structure for a fire engine.
Just for 1 fire engine?
1 fire engine and 2 firefighters.
Okay. So that's not going to change if we do Station 2 first?
Makes no difference which station we start with. That situation is created. So think about this. Whenever we tear down Station 2, I got to have that in place.
Right. Mm-hmm.
That's really what drives that temporary condition.
Okay.
Whenever we decide to tear down Station 2 and vacate that building, and fire prevention is when we have to start putting that temporary condition in play.
If I recall correctly from a conversation you and I had, I don't recall when it was, I think it was in strategic planning, you had said that you were looking at that because the original plan prior to this board was, I call it the 2019 plan, was we were just gonna pull Station 2 back to old 1 and just use that. We're gonna save all this temporary quarter money. But when we did the stakeholder meetings last year, you had said that residents were concerned. I mean, there isn't gonna be, they were concerned about relying on mutual aid and the longer response time from this side. So you feel that we need to staff that based on serving our community better.
Absolutely.
So that is something we're going to have to, and I appreciate the fact that you said, look, that's something in the last 12 months that you figured out is going to be an extra cost for us.
Right.
And if we do Station 1 first, you're saying that gives me some time to, I know you have a capital, so it allows some time to work on creative solutions as far as funding that, gives us a bit of a window there.
Right.
I also think that, one of the things, he's going to have that temporary facility regardless, but he still has extra equipment currently at Station 2 that he can house over
at the old Station 1.
Old Station 1.
Okay, that's where I was getting confused. Okay.
Yes.
Which
So-
we wouldn't, if we wouldn't have, if we did two first,
We
we
did
would
two
then have to find, so in
You
addition
have to
to
find
the,
another place
to
for
the
that.
cost for on-site, you would also have to find
Additional-
a store, we'd have to get something else.
Additional storage
Yeah,
space
so we'd have
if we did two
even more
first.
than we've already talked about as far as additional costs.
So
And that's why it was important for the leadership of the fire department to get together and really work our heads around. I mean, logistics is our thing. So
as far as the estimated cost for a temporary housing at Station 2, what would that look like as far as a
So
mobile
based on-
home and a,
some just off the cuff quotes that I've gotten in terms like for the mobile home, we're at $45,000 for a 12-month lease. Right now they're saying 12 to 14 months for Station 2's project. Just the mobile home part of it to house the firefighters, 40 to 45,000 for a 12-month lease, and that includes utility hookups and tie-ins and all that stuff. The other side of it is the engine house. We had talked before. I mentioned to you about the tents, and I was really surprised how much a tent costs. I wanted to reach out to Barnum and Bailey, but see if they had anything available. But that didn't sit well with me, and nor did it sit well with the department. We knew there were better options. We just had to find them.
Okay.
And right now we're guessing about another 30 to 40,000 for that for that temporary structure, and that is including. Is that? Thank you. And that's including some creative things like we know that the engine house, if it's like a barn structure, will have to have an overhead door. So we can salvage the overhead door, the track, and the opener from the old Station 2
Before you tear it down.
before we tear it down. The bay heater that's in Station 2 in the apparatus floor, I can take it out and move it over to the temporary structure. Some service doors I can move over. So all that adds up. And a couple of contractors that I've been just off the cuff talking to, throwing past ideas, are all in with that. The challenge is when we're done with it, what do we do with it? There's been ideas thrown out that maybe the contractor could or would be willing to disassemble and haul it away. Maybe they don't charge us 100% or whatever that pay structure is. That's when we'll have to defer to the brilliant Mr. Lucas for his guidance and infinite wisdom on how to put something together for that. But there's some options that way. But those are all ways that we can reduce the cost, the overall cost of this temporary building. There's no, in terms of utilities are utilities. So when the old station's torn down, obviously I'm not paying utilities into that.
right?
I'll be paying utilities into the temporary facility. The whole goal behind the temporary facility is just to maintain service on that side of town. And that's really the most important thing to us, is to make sure that side's covered.
And I know there's been a little conversation about this, but just for the sake of kind of having it out in the open and with the board, and whoever's watching, we looked at you've looked at sites around that area, so not just the Station 2 land, but
Right.
you've considered other physical
Yeah.
places in the township, and if I recall correctly, you're telling me there's nothing that's really working out strong in your mind at this point?
Yeah, so the first challenge that really we were faced with is, as Deputy Chief and I drove around town a few times now, just trying to make sure that there was, we're thinking of everything. And, the first is access. So, we're thinking, wow, St. Gabe's has a huge parking lot. That's awesome. Well, what happens at St. Gabe's parking lot every weekend? It's packed, right? So, and then once a summer, if they have their festival, and I hope that you're able to get back to their festival this year. So that puts a kibosh on that. We have to be able to respond no matter what's happening. The other is utility location and tie-ins. to sewer. You know, the mobile home's gonna have to tie into sewer, electricity, communications, phones, cable, you know, internet, all that stuff. We have to still maintain a level of service. So access to all that is the other concern. We looked at Hope Ridge. Someone brought up recently working with Cars Auto. I went and visited Steve over at Cars.
Have you considered Concord Hills Park?
Yes.
Okay.
So what do you see when you come out of Concord Hills Park? A hill. The line of sight isn't there.
I just wondered if that was part of the
But
discussion.
yeah, that was absolutely every place we go. That's one of the first things we look at is when I pull that engine out, what do I see? And when I'm on that road, can I see that engine pulling out?
No.
No. And that was another similar issue with Cars Auto is access.
Cars Auto
They have
is,
It's across from Concord
The
Plaza.
fire-
yeah, right there at
Firestone and Button.
yeah,
Button,
Button,
84.
yeah, because they have those big bays.
Right. And there's no doubt that Steve and his family over there at Cars Auto, they do great things for us, and we have a great relationship. The first concern is safety and security, not only for their clients' vehicles that are on their floor,
Right.
but for our apparatus as well. You know, that's really the biggest hang up I have with that.
When you'd be in that situation, that's gonna be an EMS rig, so you'd have drugs too, yes? That you'd have to secure,
Yeah.
that'd be another issue.
Yeah. And then off hours access. So
Building.
just to run down, if we're over there and we have a mobile home taking up most of their parking lot, because I have to keep the firefighters there, and then provide 4 spaces of parking. So now I've taken up his
Right.
whole parking lot
Yeah.
of his business. And we pop a call at 2 a.m. The firefighters have to leave the mobile home, go around to open the door, which we would have to have access, disarm the alarm, manually open the overhead door because they're not mechanical, pull the truck out onto Button Road, block traffic because you can't turn, while the other firefighter closes the door, locks it, sets the alarm, walks out. All this is time.
Right.
By the time I finish that, I might as well just have put everyone at Station 1.
Right. Cause it's
So-
not, it's only, I mean, your response time, if I'm recalling the report, you know, we're 3 to 5 on average, meaning sometimes even less than that. So if you were to take on Station 2 calls from over here, you're up
I'm at 7, 8.
7, which, so you're only talking about a 3 to 4 minute, and what you just chronicled out is gonna blow right through 3 minutes.
Easy.
Oh,
Easy.
Yeah.
I will tell you from an administrative standpoint, and I'm sure the law director might agree with me, and I talked to the fire station leadership is, you know, customers and employees of Cars, all great people, but they're gonna have access and the availability to get to our vehicle.
Right.
Our firefighters are gonna have the ability to have access to their stuff.
And their
And all it
clients.
takes is one misplaced item. Hey, I left my laptop in my car. Hey, this scratch wasn't here yesterday. You know, there's just liability concerns that I
Sure.
have. Well, we all have great intentions and we all want to help each other. And Mr.
Right.
Cars has been very friendly and a great community partner. I have concerns with that aspect of it. Put aside the time it takes to access, open, close, set the alarms, but the physical security aspect of it is
Sure.
where my
Challenging.
concerns
Very
are.
challenging.
Yeah.
You know, and
All it was going to take was one
Right.
time for something to get misplaced, and then it opens up a whole investigation. I just don't.
it just gets
We have a
messy.
good relationship with them, and I don't want
Yeah.
to screw it up over
And
something.
when it comes down to it, we need to still maintain a good response time on that
Right.
end of town. So
Right.
it's,
Yes,
it's it's just gonna add time to that response, so.
Yeah. So that kind of just summarizes what my thoughts on sequencing, in terms of, you know, what station to start with. Certainly it's your choice.
When are we gonna end up getting, remind me again when we're getting bid ready documents? I know we approved the POs for construction, so we're kind of going through that. Cause that's, I assume getting into that process is about when we're gonna need to make the decision of which way we're going first.
Yeah, so I'm guessing May
Okay.
to go to bid, I think was their timeline, but I could certainly verify that. But you know, they're just getting into construction documents. So Deputy Chief has done a great job reviewing the design development drawings that came in, that we posted on the website. That will all those comments will go to the architect to help them develop the construction documents. So, but any other questions on the sequencing side of things? And actually, we touched on the temporary conditions as well, and that was the other big topic for tonight is the temporary conditions.
One other question, Chief. As far as the temporary conditions at Station 2, we will have how many firefighters staffing that location? Two.
You'll have a lieutenant or an acting officer and a medic.
Okay.
So basically, you'll have 2 medics.
Yeah. To run
One
that
of
one
which
engine.
is also an officer.
Yeah. To run that one engine out of there.
Yes, sir.
And then the ambulance will come from Station 1 if it's needed, right?
Yeah. And if that's tied up, we also have mutual aid with
Yeah.
Painesville
And the
Township,
MOU is with, we have mutual aid with Menor.
Menor, Painesville Township,
Painesville
Painesville City. It
Township,
just depends
Cur-
where the
right.
Kirtland Hills. Yeah,
Kirtland Hills.
Kirtland rather.
Okay.
Yeah.
What, and maybe we're not there yet, but you talked about, the temporary condition for Station 2 being 12 to, as you say, 14 months? We're running.
Yeah, somewhere around there. Yeah.
Okay, so obviously that's our ballpark between, do we have a window on how long it's gonna take to construct? Have they given us an estimate on what?
I think they said 16 to 18 months.
For one?
Yeah, for Station 1. Yeah.
So. No, okay. So we have a while till this project's gonna be completely done. We're talking
Completely done. Moving. Yeah.
4 years.
Yeah.
3.
About 3 years.
About 3 years.
3 to 4.
3 to 4.
Yep. And going back to the Station 2 thing, working with Tim Brown at the service department, you know, working with him real closely on setting that base, the asphalt base, and keeping those costs down as much as we can. If we do a garage, obviously it's going to have to be a concrete floor, just to hold that weight.
Law requires, right? Again, isn't there code about what you park that thing on? Is there regulations?
For as far as temporary, I don't think it really has.
But you have to temperature control it. That's.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely temperature control. So the concrete will help hold some of that heat over the winter.
And you've been having, I guess you and the deputy chief have been having continuous dialogue with our neighbors over there as far as
Yeah, they know what's going on.
what's
They're
going
kind
on,
of,
which is-
we're kind of waiting until we have some decisions made
Mhm.
before we, get into the weeds of response and stuff like that. So, some of our outlying areas of Station 2, like Wellesley, that's already covered automatic aid with Painesville Township. They come to that section. We work with Menor real good on off of Hoos Road, Yellowwood, and all that. Sweetgum back in there. So.
I just actually wanted to ask Mrs. Dawson a question. I know, again, I keep referring to the 2019 plan,
Right.
and not only was there the whole timeline, consideration there, but there was the fiscal part of that was essentially the backbone of it.
Right.
And I know the chief had mentioned tonight, reverting to that seemed to be, do you have any comment about how proceeding one way or the other is more or less favorable for us finance-wise?
Well, I think that with the more information that at least I receive, my opinion, my initial opinion was, let's do Station 2, let's get it done quick, let's move along. that was before I found out about the temporary conditions. That was before, we talked about fire prevention being displaced and the cost that it's going to incur hooking them up to temporary conditions at the community center, which is also going to disrupt the community center activities. Here's the thing, we'll go out for our rating and bonding May-ish, about the same time. We will have to do that before you get the bid-ready docs. We're not gonna go out for bid unless we have the bond secured. And we're working with our bond counsel and PFN to get that done. Mr. Rose and I have been working with them. We have a one-time opportunity to get $8 million. And my fear in doing Station 2 first is that something's going to happen and we spend more of that than we anticipated. Then what do you do with Station 1? It's going to be far easier for us to get short-term financing at the end of Station 2 if we build one first.
Right.
Plus, it'll also allow me to accumulate JED funds, capital projects funds, any kind of other grants that are involved with safety services that could be used toward that station. NOPEC grants, for instance, things like that.
Right.
So my thinking has changed, I'll be honest with you. We're not going to disrupt anybody really going across the street. I mean, it's our land. You have one close neighbor, okay? Versus the location being completely surrounded by, I think really strategic planning set home that, oh my gosh, yeah, we have space there, but you're going to have construction vehicles moving in and out, and the fact that, yes, you're going to have 2 people there, but again, you can still use the old Station 1 for housing of any materials, any equipment. That's not going anywhere until after the end of the project.
Right.
Anything that you might want to save from Station 2 before you tear it down, we will be able to store it in the empty old Station 1 building.
Without incurring storage
Costs.
Right, without any additional
I
storage
was just gonna
costs.
say, I'm really starting to
We also have two
see the
bays,
fiscal
3 bays.
responsibility going that
Right.
way, yeah.
Available. How many? I don't even know how many bays. We have 2 bays, 4 bays.
Or here.
4 bays for any other vehicles that need to be stored during that time frame,
Well, the other thing,
which
what it
is
does
paid
is,
for.
right, and it provides some relief to the service department. The service department has been fantastic for many years in allowing us, well, since A, B, and C building were torn down, we've been displaced out of, we've had to displace one fire engine, either one fire engine or an ambulance, and a off-road rescue vehicle. So the service department's been fantastic and allow us to do that, but the sooner we can get them out of there, then that gives them some relief
Which
as
they
well.
need.
They need it
Yes.
too,
Yes,
yeah,
they do.
absolutely.
Right.
Well,
So I guess that's my thinking right now, Mr. McIntosh. Time value of saving money.
Right.
Do not underestimate that.
No. And I think it's
And there's going to be project delays. There really are. Plus, if something does come up in Station 1, we will have learned how to avoid that in Station 2. And it can be, I obviously
When we're
think,
snugged up in a residential area.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, just, if we weren't gonna move across the street, just think of having to do both temporary position.
Yeah, no.
condition.
Wow, yeah, thanks,
So-
thanks for that visual.
Nice.
So, fiscally,
This
she's
is already
fiscally
challenging.
responsible
Yeah.
to at least move across the
Yeah.
street too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's important, like
Yeah.
Mr. McIntosh said and Mrs. Dawson, we have an obligation, as we stated in the stakeholder meetings and getting this approved, that we need to push this project through, but we need to be very fiscally responsible and make sure we're wise on the way we spend the tax dollars. So I think that's critical.
I guess I think there was a lot of value in holding the stakeholder meetings last year, and I think at this point, if I'm looking back at the last 12 months, I think one of the most valuable things that we got out of that probably was the fact that you found out residents were upset about not having us over on that side of the township.
Right.
And forget the levy passing and getting all of
Right.
that done and communicating and educating the community. I mean, the fact that we walked away with that knowing, okay, I guess we really have, we got that feedback is
Right.
the most valuable feedback I think we could have gotten in all of this, was hearing from the community about our service. So,
Yeah.
and that also tells me how good of a job you guys are doing when they're like, wait, you're not going to be there,
Right.
and that's
It's a
nice.
count on it.
It's nice to have that reassurance that hey, if you're there, we're happy. So
Right.
we should all be proud about that.
I don't think it can be overemphasized. We've gotten suggestions like the Mr. Carr suggestion or St. Gabe or the park, and I mean, I went out and drove around too, and then I know these guys have spent a lot of time looking at all the various sites and looking for ways to save money. I love the fact that, the fire leadership and design teams like, hey, you know what, can we strip the overhead doors off the old station? Can we move the heater? Tim Brown picked up right where Frank Kraska left off. He's like, hey, we can put in the driveway for the temporary facility. That saves money.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of savings there, but I guess when it came down to brass tacks and we were planning this out, it's like, man, you built Station 2 first. There's a lot of storage and relocation costs that
Right.
go away once you free up the old Station 1 and you can pack
You
that
can use
thing.
that.
There's your storage unit,
It's
Right.
a transition unit.
and
Yeah, it's transition
fire
building.
it's seamless for fire prevention, and those guys are busy. I mean, and they're not gonna slow down, and like I mentioned during the trustees meeting, we got a couple more businesses coming in, and that's more inspections and more plan reviews and different things like that, so.
Well, and it takes. I mean, I know Rec was making an effort to be very gracious, and we know that was the
Absolutely.
biggest rep in the
Oh.
world.
Right.
Yeah.
So I just feel like she would have endured
Sure.
for anything and never said it. She would have never complained.
Sure.
But I've always was nervous about really for 2 years we're gonna do this, and I like the idea of moving these guys one time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I stopped by to see Deb the other day, and for the same reason,
Mhm.
and because she's already made some moves in the facility in terms of moving personnel around to
Yeah.
accommodate us, but that concerned me because I'm like, we haven't made a decision yet, so I'm afraid that you're moving too fast. She goes, no. She goes, actually, this whole discussion has given them an opportunity to move people in a position that improves their service. So it helped them anyway.
Right.
But on top of that, if you put fire prevention there, here we're gonna be reopening the community center as we come out of the COVID tunnel, for lack of a better term. And, the garden club, the 55, and all the different clubs start coming back once the vaccinations, and, we're gonna get back to
Mhm.
what we once were, and now we've cut off about a fourth of the community center because of equipment and
Right.
files and additional workspaces, and it's like, I don't know that we wanna do that right when we're opening the doors and welcoming everybody back after
Right.
we get through the COVID tunnel.
Right.
I don't know. Just another
No.
small consideration,
Yep.
but that's got a big impact to the community.
Yeah. Some good discussion here.
Very
Obviously,
good.
like I said, it sounds like we've got some time. We're not pressed to make this decision. And as I said at the opening, the intention here isn't to make a decision.
Right.
This information should be available to the community. And again, anybody that's listening or has questions, I encourage you to reach out to us, or again remind you of first and third Wednesday of the month we do have audience participation. So that's the time when we're prepared to discuss this with the community. Chief, anything else? Any closing remarks? Anything you have yet, or that you wanted to get to us in front of us tonight that you didn't?
No, those were my major points for tonight, is just to, get into the weeds on the discussion as far as sequencing, and, because before you know it, it's gonna be here.
Yeah.
Right.
It's gonna come
Yep.
quick, and we just wanna make sure that we're ahead of it and, ready to pull the trigger on whichever way you guys decide to go.
Yeah, I like this routine that we're keeping up. I think these discussions have been at every meeting this year talking with some form of an update, and I think this dialogue is helpful. The biggest project this township's gonna undertake for a while, and has in many years at this point. I mean, this is a huge deal, so we need to put a lot of effort. Does any final comments?
No,
or
I
questions from the board?
agree. I think it's important that we have these dialogues, these work sessions. It's important to involve the community, and like I said in the past, I mean, if anybody out there, any of our residents have any ideas, feel free to reach out to one of the trustees. We'd be more than happy to entertain any ideas, but that's what we're doing. We're doing this collectively as a community. It's like Mr. McIntosh said, a huge project, and we're gonna do it the right way.
Appreciate your due diligence, you know, you're really, every day you're kind of learning something, and, you know, I mean, that just shows that obviously, you know, you're looking at every angle, you know, what are we missing, and, you know, that's
Right.
so important. But yeah, we appreciate that. We appreciate the feedback we get from the community. We've got a great team here, so.
And it goes without saying, without, you know, if you guys have questions or ideas, or, hey, I haven't heard you talk about this, have you thought about whatever, you know?
Right.
Please let us know. This is a great opportunity for us. We're learning a lot every day. It's exciting, but it's a lot of work, but it's gonna be rewarding in the end, so.
All right, well, I think with that, I'm gonna go ahead and you know, thank everyone for their time this evening. Again, great update, a good project to be excited about. And with that, we'll adjourn the work session, and we'll call it an evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.